Every day there are so many important and interesting events occurring around us. Often we don't recognize this. On December 29th, 1998, I was born, and there are also several really interesting, important events that occurred that day. I was born December 29th, 1998, and I learned about forgiveness, death, assassinations, and of course the birth of Kate Scrivner. In the 1970s, there was actually a genocide in Cambodia by the Khmer Rouge. On the 29th of December in 1998, two of these leaders asked for forgiveness from the people that they had killed in the world. They apologized to the families immediately and talked to them directly. I thought that was really interesting. I read an article by The Guardian, and it talked about how during this time they killed between 1.6 and 1.8 million people. This was between the years of 1975 and 1979. So these two leaders, one of them, his last name was Sampan. They apologized to the families of the people killed directly in the genocide. This is a photo from some of the people in the Khmer Rouge in the streets. It was a really big deal for them to apologize to these families because this horrible situation, and often people don't own up to situations like that because it's really, really bad. Also, on December 29th, the Israeli army actually assassinated a man named Zahi Naim Hajar Ahmed Mahavi in Lebanon. So this man was actually a really important man in the world. He was a top Hezbollah explosives expert, and so this army was really worried about the threat that they had from him, and so they took it upon themselves to just kill him anyway so that they didn't have to deal with it themselves. So I thought that was really interesting. I read an archive from the Washington Post that had information directly from that time. And so Mofaz, who is reporting about this, he said that the action was part of an effort to wipe out the ability of the pro-Iranian Hezbollah group that he was in charge of. And so that was really interesting that they took it upon themselves to, in order to prevent this disaster, to simply wipe out the source of the disaster completely. Another thing that was really interesting that happened around the time of my birthday. So on December 29th, on December 26th, there was a Hobart yacht race that they have every year in Sydney, Australia. And so on these couple of days, they had this huge yacht race, and there was a big storm and winds, and the water was crazy, and so it ended really disastrously. There were several deaths, and boats were taken down. There were 6 sailors dead, 66 boats retired from the race, and 55 were taken off their yachts, and 5 boats were sank. And so a lot of times we don't recognize that these things are happening in the world, but this was really, really horrible. Several people died. This was the 54th annual Blue Water Classic, and so this is just one picture of one of the boats that was affected by this situation. The water was so bad that the boaters couldn't get through it. Interestingly, a person did cross the finish line. A couple people did. The first person to cross the finish line was Larry Ellison, and it happened on December 29th, which was my birthday. The overall winner, the name was the Midnight Rambler, and it was actually the smallest yacht in a decade to win the race, and so I thought that was really interesting. He was the 10th to cross the finish line. Furthermore, 2 leaders of a terrible group apologized for terrible things that they had taken part in. The Israeli government took out a person to help themselves. A yacht race ended terribly, and I was born on the December 29th. And so I thought these events were really interesting. And it's really important to be aware of the crazy things that are happening around us. Often we don't realize that all around the world there's so many different events occurring, and it's important to be aware and to keep up with the things occurring around us. And so each of these events are so extreme, and they allow us to realize that there's so much more going on around us than we recognize. It's important to step out from ourselves and to realize what's happening around the world. Thank you.